So my question about this is like, how come most people who go visit canyons, they see the trees, the squirrels, they see this amazing pristine wilderness and appreciate the beauty and wish that it would just be preserved for generations and generations. And other people, they just see dollar signs and they wrecking balls and bulldozers and they want to just take it all out. How does that happen so often in Utah?
Well, I think, there's a everybody loves getting outdoors and enjoying Utah's landscapes, but where we live in a state where, we don't like the federal government. We don't really like government. We don't, but we love private enterprise and private businesses. And, I think celebrating Save Our Canyon's 50th anniversary this year, what we warned against is not what these ski areas are, but what they will become. And so 50 years later, we're still trying to answer that question. What are they going to do to our canyons, right? And when you're a business, it's a perpetual growth model, right?
Yeah.
And so
That's actually it. They just can't stop growing. They want more and more and more people on the mountain.
more people on the mountain,
And they
more
can't
people
ever see a
serving
point
beers,
where
more people bumping chairs, and how to get them there. And you're kind of confronted with this new regime with new pass products and things like that I think have cut a little bit into the ski areas margins. And now you're looking at this kind of like Black Friday type market where they just, how many people can we get through that revolving door?
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to, ditch the revolving door, which today is kind of the canyon traffic, right? And that's what that's exactly what they're looking at. How do we replace that revolving door?
Yeah, and I was reading the op-ed on the Deseret News website about this, like whether it's got to be a 4-lane highway or a gondola. Do you really see it as an either or? Those
Yeah,
both sound like terrible options.
It's a false dichotomy. I think, I think there's a lot of things that we can do. And what we've been trying to say for decades is like, Utah, the masses are coming. How are we going to grow? And for, decades, the counties and a lot of the cities that have popped up around that, it's just like more single family housing and sprawl, and I'm not going to give up my automobile kind of thing. And now we're kind of, I think we've limited some of our opportunities to service these canyons and steward these canyons a little bit for sure. And
by that you mean we could have adopted something a few years back that could have reduced the vehicular traffic.
Yeah. I mean, simply by rather than investing in roads and giving gobs of money over to UDOT, we could have made an earnest investment in public transportation and mass transit. I mean, today, it's just I find it a little, well, laughable, not ha-ha laughable, but kind of insulting, frankly, to the people in our community who can't even ride transit to get to work. Yet we're trying to enable, the fun hogs to get up and down Little Cottonwood Canyon.
Yeah.
Like they're going to have better transit than working families in Utah. And I say better only if you're, can pay a couple $1,000s a year to get your family to enjoy resort skiing in the Wasatch, because that's the only people it's going to serve.
That's right. And it's unfortunately, skiing has become like this much more elitist activity than it ever was when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It was like $12 when I was a kid to go up skiing for the day, and then we had our classrooms going up sometimes, and that would be, I think, close to free. But there's nothing really that can be done about that, is there? I mean, skiing has now just become so expensive. I mean, you just got to plan on spending $200, and this gondola proposal, I bet you would be spending $15 to park your car for the day, and then $20 for a gondola pass on top of your resort pass. How is that gonna help anybody who's an average resident of Utah?
I mean, I think $15 is probably pretty generous. You look at other places across the West, whether it's places like Jackson Hole, they're all paying $25 a day to park, or Vail, Colorado. These areas it's $25, and then you got to pay your $200 day pass on top of that, and then your, $20 sandwich to boot.
And we were talking about this before we started, and my knee-jerk reaction was, well, this is got to be about parking. Chris McCandless said, oh, it's not about parking. We love the environment. We want to see it, preserved. And I cannot believe either of those statements, because you're talking about 200-foot poles that got to be placed through Little Cottonwood Canyon. And if I'm a little deer running through the forest, I'm not going to be happier about a giant pole being in my way. And how is it that they just completely brushing that aside, that this is going to have a really detrimental environmental impact on the canyon, and they say that making the road wider would be more deleterious to the environment. It's just not true.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question the amount of earth moved to expand that roadway will have a significant impact, for sure. But to say that the gondola is green, and how they say it with a straight face, it's the epitome of greenwashing. I think they're trying to hang their hat on the fact that, they've these gondolas can be electrified, so they can be kind of deemed as a clean, green source of energy, but buses and trains can be electrified too. Yeah. But UDOT chose to diminish those alternatives and not really give them a fair shake in the analysis. And I think that's something, if we want to talk about having electrified sources of transportation running up and down that, we should do it, and we should do it in a fair and equitable way where we can line these proposals up shoulder to shoulder. But to pit, an electric gondola and then say, but the buses have to be diesel fired, is just not fair, because we know we have electric. I mean, just 2 seasons ago, this electric bus company, Proterra, did bus tests up and down each and every canyon where there's a ski resort in the state of Utah, from Powder Mountain to Sundance, Big and Little Cottonwood, and they tracked the performance and the efficiency on these buses. And in this video, like, all the ski area GM's coming out and slapping their stickers on the bus, being like, this is the future. But now it's the dirty, stinky, nasty bus that you have to, and they equate it to, like, taking the 2 downtown, or the 200 down State Street, and I just don't think they're not giving it a fair shake.
And so what are the chances this is going to happen, this gondola? I know UDOT approves of it, and it seems like obviously Snowbird bought the property from McCandless, and they see dollar signs, they want to see it happen. But what are the chances this actually flies?
I mean, so I think there's, first of all, the UDOT environmental impact statement. First they said it was this winter, then they said it was this spring, and now they say it's this summer. And so here we are, 107 degrees in Salt Lake City, waiting for the final environmental impact document. I think that document will have a 30-day comment period. They had suggested they would do at least a 30-day comment period. And then have a decision this winter. So sometime between, we figured it would be a Christmas present to the ski areas, something like that was when we would learn about the final decision. And so this is what we want to do. And then the next hurdle becomes like, well, where does the money come? Where does $500 million come from? And if you've seen some Deseret News articles in the past few weeks, they're like, well, $500 million might be, significantly under budget. We're probably actually looking, given the supply chain issues and material costs and construction costs, probably closer to $1 billion to build the gondola in the canyon.
Yeah, that's
so
insane.
I think there's the decision-making framework, of which the state of Utah is the decision maker, and then there's the how do we fund what we build, and is the state of Utah really going to stick it to taxpayers to build this thing?
And by the state of Utah, you mean does the ultimate decision come down to the state legislature?
Well, I mean, it's an administrative decision, so it's really the governor and UDOT. Carlos Braceras, the director is the responsible official for this. But of course, the legislature approves UDOT's budget, and he serves his boss as the governor. So, I think yeah, there's probably a little bit of the legislature, and we've seen letters from the legislature going back to when this process started. Legislators, folks like Kirk Cullimore, falling all over themselves for this gondola and telling UDOT to build the gondola. So we kind of feel like it's been stamped, signed, and sealed since the day they really started this process.
Yeah, and if you're kind of new to Utah, I heard you point out in a public comment that there's this whole kind of good old boys club that exists here, and it's the developers and their politician buddies, and they're so often one and the same. And Chris McCandless, Wayne Niederhauser, he's a former Senate president, and now he's the Homeless Services Director, which I find quite interesting. And, in that there's just not enough housing, and we've been reporting how nobody is stepping up to build affordable housing anywhere in Utah right now. But it's like it's this elitist group of people who have their vision for what Utah should become, but it doesn't correspond to people who actually like the environment. And there's just like this disconnect from what people who are here because of the mountains enjoy and what these developer politicians want to envision. Do you see any way in bridging that divide?
Yeah, the money is going the opposite directions of the problems that the people of Utah are living each and every day. I mean, you look at $1 billion. I mean, we should stop saying $500 million for a gondola, because I think it is really going to be $1 billion for a gondola. Saving the Great Salt Lake, this resource that Utah's population center is surrounded by, got $40 million. Homelessness gets like $20 million, right? Mm-hmm. But we can spend $1 billion on getting skiers to 2 ski areas in one canyon.
Yeah,
it is insanity, and it's perhaps, I find it offensive, but I think it's near criminal, frankly. Yeah. The things that we are overlooking to help 2 ski areas. And they'll say, the tax dollars, revenue, but it never trickles down. I haven't seen a penny. I've lived here my entire life, and those monies don't trickle down. They just go off to the next deal, helping the inland port or helping, whatever.
Yeah, and it's sad because there's common sense, and there's people who are affected by these decisions, and then there's people in their ivory towers who just look at the zeros in their bank account, and they realize, oh well, if this happens, what a no-brainer. We're going to be able to charge 10,000 people a day to go up here, and we're going to be able to get another amount of money from the cars that are parked in the parking lot. And it is they'll rake in tons and tons of cash. But if you're actually up on the ski hill, this is the thing I was thinking about. The last time I went to Snowbird, which was quite a while ago, like probably 3 or 4 years ago, there were so many people already on the mountain, you just feel at risk all the time. Like, there's just too many skiers. And if the goal is to get more skiers on the mountain, at what point are you just going to have like a inflatable airbag when you go skiing to prevent from getting wrecked?
Backcountry skiers are starting to wear those inflatable airbags, right?
True.
So
yeah, that's
maybe they'll become common practice, and you'll just be like in those sumo suits with fans going down the ski hill for sure. But yeah, I think the point is that these canyons have a capacity, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what we've been and that's one of the fatal flaws we've seen in this transportation analysis, is that if you're a planner and you're trying to do something that's responsible, equitable, and considerate of the place that you're doing, you kind of like, all right, what's the floor? But I got a planning ceiling, I got a planning horizon, and nobody has ever taken it upon themselves to really see that. I mean, we're trying to understand that. You got entities like the Central Wasatch Commission. We've done visitor studies for the Wasatch for a number of years. We know 70% of the visitation in these canyons, Big, Little Cottonwood, Mill Creek, is dispersed users. Who is not being served by these public investments? The average Utahn, the average citizen, the dispersed user. Like, the dispersed areas of the canyon with this gondola proposal are quite literally flyover country. So, I mean, we're not looking at the people, and we have massive congestion issues, not just in our canyons, but on major arterial roads all throughout the state, including I-15 and I-80. I mean, you look at the number of times I-80 has been shut down in the past 12 months. It's probably more than double Little Cottonwood Canyon, and that serves a heck of a lot more people than Little Cottonwood Canyon.
Yeah, speaking of I-80, the gravel pit proposal you guys are also fighting against, another just crazy dumb idea.
Insane idea.
What is the status of that right now?
The status right now, they had initially filed both a large mining operation permit and a small mining operation permit, basically saying they wanted the small mine, but that they really wanted to be a large mine. And then the division Division of Oil, Gas, and Mining didn't really know what to do with that. So they said, well, why don't we all just forget that we wanted to be a large mine, and we'll just proceed with the small mine. So the Division of Oil, Gas, and Mining Board allowed the developers to basically see, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. We're just going to focus on having a small mine, so 20 acres versus the 650 acres that they really are after. And so they're evaluating that small mine permit, and I think in the next several weeks, either DOGM will make a decision as to whether or not they approve it or oppose it. But there are still some air quality and water issues, and the county zoning ordinance that the community really rallied and encouraged the county council and supported the county council and made mining in our Foothills Canyons overlay zone a prohibited use, and an illegal use. So kind of we're in this weird pattern where the state of Utah is like, we have to do this permit, but the county, who's the local government, local control in Utah, is saying no. And now we're hearing rumors that the Utah State Legislature is just going to wholesale remove land use authority from local governments.
Really?
So it's just more paternalism from your elected officials of the state.
Yeah, this sounds like the same problem with the inland port. Like, nobody locally wants the inland port, but that the state came down and said, no, we're doing it. We've been planning this for years and years, and you're gonna live with it, even though it's completely Salt Lake City proper's land, and Salt Lake City residents absolutely don't want it. Right. So that could happen with the gravel pit the same way.
Happen with gravel pit. It's happening with Little Cottonwood Canyon, and we'll probably begin to see it in Big Cottonwood Canyon as they initiate a process to try and deal with the congestion that they're facing.
Well, how can watchers, readers, listeners get involved? Because this is obviously not in the benefit of their interests. What can we do to stop this?
Yeah, I mean, I think people need to engage their elected officials. They need to talk to your elected officials, run for office, run against some of these people that are supporting and not, putting the screws to these developers that are literally trying to profit off of the commons, off of the public trust.
Why don't we amend our Utah State Constitution? If you're a developer, you can't run for office.
There you go.
That would eliminate
that's a great
95% of the problem.
that could be a great step. Talk to your legislators about running things like that. Let them hear your ideas, let them hear your solutions. Reach out to us, write letters to the editor, host parties around issues, and kind of engage your friends, your hiking buddies, your ski buddies, about these issues, because it really is going to take a multi-pronged attack to really resolve some of these. But in the interim, when we kind of have these projects that are live, that are facing a decision, our best course is likely going to be, appeals and litigation on these projects to try and defend these canyons in the courts, because I think that there is a fair amount of cronyism behind a lot of these projects that we can, at the very least, expose through appeals and through the judicial system.
Yeah, so that's what it'll probably end up, huh? Well, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, Carl. Save Our Canyons 50th year anniversary. Go check them out at saveourcanyons.org, right?
That's it. Yep.
Yeah, and get involved. I mean, these local issues, folks, you can actually make a difference in. You can't make a difference in the January 6th committee or what's going on at the White House, but you can make a big difference on these issues. So go take charge and be involved. So with that, thanks so much for coming on, Carl. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Happy to talk anytime.
All right. We'll see you next time.
All right.
And check out our new issue of Utah Stories magazine. And if you'd like to subscribe to the magazine and help support our coverage, go visit utahstories.com. And it is $2 a month or $24 for the entire year. Thanks for watching. See you next time.